Hello everybody and welcome back to the Crafty Crew podcast. My name is Kinger and as always I'm joined by Mark.
Hello.
By Nally.
Well.
And by Walshy.
How now?
Why? Where is the goddamn foreignese?
How now?
What's up with this? I'm disappointed that this is not.
Well, look, right, okay. Okay, I'm going to give you a little story that I only remembered just as Kinger was introducing us. I had a little discussion with a friend of ours and he was like, Walshy, I miss your intro, your hello. I was like, oh, I'll make sure to do that next time. And then literally, as Kinger was saying, welcome Mark, whatever, I was like, is there any way I can say hello that I can think of right now, besides bonjour?
You could have even said it in Irish. Like,
I don't know what hello is in Irish.
Dig a ditch, man. Dig a ditch.
I genuinely haven't a clue. What is it?
Maybe we should dig a ditch and put Welshie in it,
huh? This week we are heading to Laois and Kilkenny. So which one of you has switched this week, lads?
Yeah, so I have the Ballykilcavan Long Meadow IPA this week from Ballykilcavan Brewery in Laois. They're based there near Stradbally in Laois. It's a pretty cool place. I was looking into it, man. They've had this farm for over 13 generations. The same farm since 1639. They've been working this farm. And it was a working farm. The guy who had this was originally he wasn't into brewery or farming at all. And then he took over it in 2004 from his dad. So he's the 13th generation in it. And then a while ago, they decided that they're going to put in a brewery because they make, Ireland's famous for its malted barley. And they make some of the best in the country, so they do. They grow some of the best there. In fact, they've won a couple of awards for their malted barley, which is used in brewing and distilling. So, it's across both aspects of alcohol, which is great. Nom. But, so they've got a heap of... they've got a good few awards, and we're planning on kind of opening up for the farmhouse and everything as kind of a tourist place, because it is a working farm as well. So all the ingredients... as much as they can, they take it from the farm. So all of their barley is from the farm. All of their water is from a well on site as well. And then around October time, what they'll do is they'll release a seasonal beer that's all hops grown on the farm as well. So all of the ingredients are within a 500 meter radius of where they're made. So they've put in the new kits up there a while ago. So they're able to expand the range. So they have all their core ones. Like we had Bambrick's Brown Ale on our Brown Ale episode when everyone was kind of a bit, trepidatious about having brown ales, and it won a lot of people over, I think, especially Mark yourself. You kind of had a quick turnaround when you had that one. It was, it's good people. It's really nice stuff. I've had a couple of more of their ales, their beers and stuff. What I've seen as well, I found out that they're all of the names of the beers, so they're named after different fields. So in farms, you have different names on different fields, just so you know which it is. So this one is Long Meadow, which is like one of their oldest fields that's over 300 years old, and they've named the beer after each field. Now, whether that means that the barley comes specifically from that field, I highly doubt, but it's cool to have that kind of connection back to their farm, that they're able to say, well, Millhouse IPA is here, and Bambrick's is this one here. It's a nice little connection, so it is. But looking forward to trying this. The ones that I've had from them are pretty good. I think the Bambrick's Brown Ale is probably the nicest one I've had from them. Their line blocker is solid, so it's a solid IPA. But Millhouse as well, I think, is another one that they have is pretty good. But I'm really looking forward to trying this one at the minute. The other ones that I've seen lately is they have this one. It's called Clancy's. I can't think exactly what it is, but it's
Clancy's Cans.
Yeah, Clancy's Cans. So what it is, it's a range of kind of experimental beers that they're bringing out at the minute. So one of them was like a passion fruit sour type of thing. Another one was walnut whip stout. So they have a couple of really good ones coming out at the minute. Definitely worth giving a go if anyone's into trying some of the stranger things, which if anyone's listening to this podcast probably is. You're listening to us, we're pretty strange, so you're probably going to try them.
Don't tell them that, Nally. Don't admit to it.
We are the Upside Down.
So, Walshy, you haven't had a foreign language introduction for the episode now since the start of this season. Have you also forgotten to do anything for Laois this week?
I have. I quickly got something. And as a very educated man, I was surprised I didn't know this leading into it. But Laois was officially known as Queen's County in the honour of Queen Mary, or rather better known as Bloody Mary, between 1556 and 1920. And like I said, as an educated man, you think you've learned it all, but as the saying goes, you learn something new every day.
You absolutely Googled that one when I was talking, didn't you?
No, I Googled it before we started. There's a big difference.
Okay, fair enough.
We'll allow it.
Mark, where are you bringing us this week?
Yeah, so let's take a little hop, skip and a jump over the border to Kilkenny. So it's kind of cool. We've had some episodes this season where we've had new breweries, but Sullivan's Brewing Company, like Ballykilcavan, has really deep roots. So in 1702, the O'Sullivan family established a brewery in the Maltings in Kilkenny. It went through loads of different generations. It was a real right in the heart of the city community brewery. They were a soup kitchen for people regardless of religion during the famine. There was a big fire in the late 1800s where the whole community came together to save the brewery. They were really tied to the heart of it. Unfortunately, in 1922, it shut down after World War One. Kind of got lost a little bit. Then there would have been, like Smithwick's, and would have been becoming very big in Kilkenny. Guinness had a brewery there for a long time. Only recently closed in 2014, I think, where all the Smithwick's was previously brewed in Ireland. And in 2016, then they kind of reopened. So the Smithwick and O'Sullivan families came together they attempted to launch the Kilkenny Brewing Company, selling Sullivan's beers. But Guinness, who make Kilkenny beer, quickly put a legal end to that, a little bit of shenanigans. So Diageo took them to court and forced them to change their name. So they went with Sullivan's Brewing Company. They're, really, they have so many ties to the heart of Kilkenny. I'm really rooting for them and hoping it's really good beer. They were the first ever Irish beer. So their Maltings Red Ale in 2017 was chosen as the best ale in the world at the Burton-on-Trent International Brewing Awards, which are like the Oscars of the beer industry. So over 1,200 beers. Now, I'm not sure if it's 1,200 beers in the whole competition or 1,200 ales, but they won the best ale for their red ale. So they also have some awards. So we've got a really kind of steeped in history, prestigious couple of breweries today.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. And especially that you're saying it's the Burton-on-Trent Awards. That was way back in season 1 there, we did an episode on IPAs. And Burton-on-Trent is kind of where the best IPAs originated from, apparently. Something about the water there being a certain water chemistry in that area. So
yeah, these the awards have been going since 1886. So for it to get to kind of 2017, 2018 without an Irish winner in any category, and then Sullivan's kind of to take home the gold for us, it's a real kind of good achievement for them, and we should all be proud of them as Irishmen.
So for once on this show, we've actually got some historical things going on. This is weird.
Don't worry, Nally. Walshy's now going to say something about Kilkenny. Undo all the good work I have just tried to do.
Undo all of it, yeah.
No, more than kind of last week, I had a kind of thought process in my head of how a county came up with their name.
If you say they killed a guy called Kenny, get the fuck out.
Are you going to say that Matt Parker and Trey Stone designed the county?
Oh, sorry lads, my internet is going. I'm going to have to sign out. You have to fucking shitting all over my idea. Bastards. I had a good build up and everything. Fuck it, move on. Bastards.
You were actually going to... Walshy, we're going to have words now.
Come on, it was fairly obvious. But I was trying to make up a back story. It was pretty obvious. Of course I was going to Kilkenny. It was the two boys were in Kilkenny on a holiday and they met this guy and we're going to...
You're still doing it. You've told us you're not going to do it. We've ruined it. Yet you're still doing it.
But I was they're going to have a nod to their friend in Kilkenny, and we're right, okay, we're going to kill off a character regularly in this, and we're oh, what if we kill Kenny and it's a nod to the county? But sure, there's no fun in it now because you're after ruining on me. It's the only thing I have every week, and you won't even give me that anymore. Fucking bastards.
That is simply incredible. On that
well,
note, where
Before we go on, Kinger, I'd like to just to make Walshy feel a bit better.
No, you won't. Go away.
So a long time fan of the podcast, our doctor from Newcastle friend, who Walshy had a certain disagreement with, when Walshy was claiming to have a PhD in bollocksology at one point in his life. But he talked to the Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland, and they are willing to recognise your PhD in bollocksology for a nominal fee, of course. But congratulations, Walshy, on this great achievement.
Can I get that printed off? Because I think that'd look cool on my wall.
Yeah, money first, baby. Then you can get it.
I mean, how much are we talking? Like,
Off the
price
air.
of a postage stamp?
Off the air. DM me.
you have to make a sizable donation to the Eamon Dunphy fan
Hey.
club.
No.
Oh,
No.
this
It's about,
guy.
it's about 63,000, baby. About 63,000.
No.
Right, where are we going to go first?
So we're going to kick off with Ballykilcavan's Long Meadow, Kinger. So let's crack them open, boys.
Past the first test, it hasn't exploded.
So guys, it's nice to get back to our craft beer roots and be drinking a straight up IPA. No messing about here today.
Yeah.
It's got a lovely golden colour to it, and a little bit of a sweet smell, but you can still kind of get the bitterness in the smell.
Yeah, definitely. It's not overly hazy either, and from looking at it, it doesn't look super carbonated. I haven't tried it yet, but definitely there is that sweet smell that you're getting there with that malty background. It's got really good head retention as well. Just to point that out, like.
Do ye... No, or maybe need to let it settle a bit more, but do you kind of get a hint of banana in it?
I think that might
Yeah.
be the sweetness. Yeah, definitely, man. That's actually a great shout. It is kind of just a little bit there.
I haven't tasted it. Just off the smell, I thought I kind of got a little bit of banana. Now, I could be miles off, and 99% of the time I am, but...
No, I think
I wouldn't pinpoint it as banana specifically, all right, but it's definitely, yeah, it is. It's definitely. I think that's the sweetness, or it's the sweetness that I'm smelling more than banana.
yeah, but I think Walshy's kind of got it though. It is more kind of on that kind of fruity side of the sweetness, as in more like that kind of sweetness rather
Yeah,
than
yeah,
being
yeah.
rather than like a sickly toffee or something like that.
Yeah.
It's got quite a slick mouthfeel to it. You can kind of get the low carbonation with it, and the flavour kind of sits on your tongue a bit. And there's a bit of a pininess there, I think, in the aftertaste that I'm getting, kind of reminiscent of those West Coast IPAs that we would sometimes have,
Yeah, man, it's definitely kind of a slickness, like you say, kind of a little bit kind of oily, maybe not overly so, like, but a little bit, just a bit there. It's like that low-cal spray. It's not full-on vegetable oil, but it's a low-cal spray. One calorie per spray. People need to know it's 1 calorie per spray, not 1 calorie in the bottle. Because if you just douse pans in that shit, it does not lower the calories. But yeah, no, there is that kind of thing there. It's not overly, it's not too oily, right? And the carbonation's pretty low, but I don't think this needs a high carbonation. I think they've kind of hit what they're going for here, and that kind of, kind of old school IPA type of thing, where it is a little bit resinous, a little bit resiny, kind of piney, not over the top though. Like it's not like some of the, what ones did we have, like the Firestone Jack that were super piney.
Yeah.
It's nowhere near that kind of level, but it's
Off the scale.
yeah,
like.
it does lean more that side than kind of the sweeter ones like citrus and things like that.
I feel a little bit thrown that like we've had a lot of stuff in the podcast lately that's been like a particular type of sour or a particular type of stout or a funny take on an IPA. This is just a straight up IPA, so it's kind of it's actually quite refreshing. You know what I mean? Now, also, I will tell you, lads, that I may be more on the positive side than I've ever been tonight about these two beers, because about 20 minutes ago I finished mowing the lawns, and I just craving a good beer tonight. So everything could be extra positive for me tonight.
So we're saying this is just a regular IPA. I mean, we're not going to say it's a Long Meadow IPA and be like docking it like last week where it was a Bury IPA. I mean, 100% it's just a name. It's a piss take.
Yeah, because last week
Yeah.
the actual name of the beer was Rising Moon, and it was a berry IPA is the style they were claiming. Ballykilcavan here just claiming it's an IPA, which is the safer thing to do.
It's a smart
because
move.
who the fuck, who's going to know if it's not an IPA? You could put Carlsberg and extra hops in a bottle, shake it all up, sell it to craft beer nerds like us, and say it's an IPA, and we'd still buy it.
Oh, don't give them
I'd
ideas.
buy it. I'd buy it, but you'd know that it's not an IPA because Carlsberg is lager, and as we all know, lager
No, they
is
could just put-
distinctly cat piss.
I know, but they just slap some stupid label on it.
Yeah.
So definitely, it's in terms of an IPA though, I think the taste it's a lot more earthy than I would expect an IPA to be. Is that the barley or no?
I think Kinger maybe just maybe you might be more familiar with the newer IPAs and stuff like that. They tend to be kind of sweeter, like Citra IPAs and New England IPAs. They tend to be on that kind of sweeter side and not as piney or florally. They're more like stone fruit kind of flavors. But a good old fashioned West Coast IPA, like original IPAs, are all these kind of American hops. They're kind of piney and resinousy and kind of floral. Okay. So that earthy tones that you're saying are what you'd expect in an older type of IPA.
Okay. Yeah, traditional might be the kind of word to say for this, Nally. The traditional style of IPA, and I think we're all guilty of it, just trying loads of new things. But the IPA market is kind of being skewed towards the Citras and towards maybe the New England ones, and I think the flavors help people who maybe you like those flavors, you want to kind of ease yourself in. But I think everyone should kind of go out of their way to try an old school kind of IPA. Get that piney, resiny bitterness, the kind of florally, what would the word, floral kind of adjuncts to it, like the estery kind of tastes you get with them. Because this is kind of what it all started with. This was how craft beer kind of started getting big, was these kind of flavors, and then it expanded.
Yeah, so Walshy, I'm wondering what you think, man, because I know you're a big fan of those Citra IPAs and stuff like this, and this is more, as we're saying, kind of more traditional, more old school style. What are you thinking on it?
Yeah, I'm not, when I said at the beginning, I kind of get that banana type of a smell off it. I think it's fairly standard as IPAs go. There's nothing magic. There's something there. Maybe it's the pininess that Mark was on about, or something like that seems to be strong enough at the end. No, it doesn't make it worse or better, but I don't know. I don't know if it's sitting with me right. But for the most part, it's enjoyable. I don't know if I'd be mad to get it all the time, but if I got it, I'd be very happy to drink it. It took a fucking long time for that head to go down. I don't know if it was just the way I poured it, but that first sip was all foam. I was like, do I get a flake with this or what? I'm not sure how it works. But it's nice. It's nice standard IPA. So no real complaints about it.
Yeah. So just before we move on to the ratings, then I suppose just a quick thing I forgot to mention about the Ballykilcavan. So the Walsh family are the people who brew it there in Laois. So Walshy probably related to you. If they're from Laois and they're Walsh, they might be related to you. So check that out.
Just on a side note, the Walsh side of my famly is from Offaly, but.
Offaly,
it's the same county.
They're all Midland.
It's the same county. It's the same county. No one cares. But the other side of it as well is their family crest is a griffin. So on all of the Ballykilcavan cans, they have a griffin as the logo on it. So they do.
I'll be honest with you. I was completely wondering why there was a griffin on all their cans.
Yeah. So
I just thought this today because I got a little gift set of a couple of Ballykilcavan cans with a glass. And I was wondering, I wonder why. I bet you there's a story behind that. And that's the story.
Because the Walshes are unreal. That's what we're getting at.
I was going to swing us back just to the design of the can before we went to the ratings, just because I didn't know it was a griffin, number one. That's good to know. But all of their cans seem to have, the griffin aside, like a slightly spooky type feel.
Like a Halloween.
Like a lot of kind of like a Halloween type deal,
Yeah.
right? I'm wondering, is that part of the family history as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've met Paul Walsh and he's pretty spooky, so it's probably runs throughout the family. Like.
On that note, so we'll move on swiftly to the ratings because this conversation is deteriorating at a rapid pace. As usual, the Crafty Crew podcast rating system starts with unbearable. Then it goes booze. Then you have just beer, then brutiful, and the much fabled unbeerleavable. So who wants to kick us off here with Ballykilcavan's Long Meadow IPA?
Yeah, I'll kick us off. I actually quite enjoy this style. I like the kind of, it's straight down the middle. There's not too much going on. It's got a nice bitterness, and like the pininess is something I kind of do enjoy. The earthiness doesn't spoil it, kind of, and there's enough sweetness there. So I'm kind of on the fence between two, but I'm actually going to say this is a beautiful. It's fairly pleasant, fairly enjoyable. I could imagine myself thoroughly enjoying an evening of Long Meadows. And yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for simplicity sometimes. And I think this beer just does it all right. It's just nice and standard, traditional, and yet still very tasty and enjoyable.
Yep, so I'll jump in behind you, Mark, and I think, for me, this is a solid brewable beer. That kind of down the middle flavour where it's not over the top fruity. It's got that really nice kind of strong malt background to it that gives it that kind of earthy undertones. I like it. I think it's good beer. I will mention at 5.5%. I don't know how much we're hammering that all night, but it doesn't drink like a 5.5%. That could easily, if you told me that was 4.5, I'd believe you no problem at all. It's really quite smooth, so it is. It's not overly carbonated, so you're not going to get full on it or anything like that. I think it's a pretty solid beer, and I'll give it a beautiful as well.
It's not an IPA style that I'm used to. I think I'm definitely more used to the citrus side of IPAs. It's refreshing though. I think it is, even though it is, as you said, only 5.5%. I think it's sessionable enough to warrant a beautiful. I could definitely have a good few of these in one sitting. So I'd say beautiful, and I'd say I have yet to have a beer from Ballykilcavan that I don't like.
I would agree.
So,
Same.
Consistency is key.
I think I was on the same lines as Mark there. He was like between two, and I have been as well. And as I was saying earlier on, there was something about the, like, whether it was like a pininess or an earthiness or something that nearly felt nearly too much. But as you kind of kept going, you kind of, well, not to say kind of get used to the taste, but you get more familiar with it, and it's enjoyable. And the one thing I kind of enjoy the most is, in a pint glass, you're taking a drink, and as your nose is kind of in the pint glass, you get that smell, that kind of fruity banana, or whether it's banana or not, but to me it smells like banana, is very nice and pleasant. And then as you take the drink, it's just a nice beer. It's a nice IPA. So I can't disagree with all you, and with a solid beautiful as well.
Consistent.
Fantastic. And so, as we all know on our little trip around the country, when it comes to doing a little outro for these beers, Mr. King here is going to do his best impression of that county's accent to do it in. So, Kinger, why don't you finish the good work I started in slandering the good people of Laois, and give us an outro in your best Laois accent.
Sure, the old electric picnic does be up there in Stradbally, doesn't it? In Laois. That's it, isn't it? That's a bit. They're a bit thick, all right.
Stradbally.
Long Meadow IPA from Ballykilcavan gets a beautiful from the Crafty Crew podcast.
So, guys, I was thinking about this because, like throwing the beers in the fridge, getting ready to record. It's not often that this could be the first time maybe that we've had a bottle and a can. So the Ballykilcavan's in a can, and the Sullivan's Black Marble Stout that we're about to try is in a bottle. And I was just thinking, like, my girlfriend has told me this thing before where it's like, she thinks bottles feel fancier than cans. I don't know, for whatever connotation she has in her head about it, that maybe like a bottle is not something you drink on a green with like load of your mates when you're 16. She obviously, didn't have a normal upbringing, if that's the case, because you'll drink what you can get your fucking hands on at that age. But what's your opinions on it? As I've gotten a bit older, I've kind of been like, yeah, you know what, I kind of enjoy giving people bottles when they come over more than like cracking a can and pouring it and having to clean the glass and stuff. So what do you guys think?
So I'll let you know what I think. I think the reason you're not allowed bottles when you're younger is because you're thick and you'll murder each other with them. And they're much harder than cans. If I hit you with a can, it's probably not going to kill you. If I hit you with a bottle, 50-50 chance. And if the bottle doesn't do the job, after I hit the bottle off the ground, there's a solid 90% chance. So, maybe when you're younger, it is a fancier thing for people who are, a little more together, let's say. But no, I think, yeah, as I kind of got older, I don't think it really matters, man. I mean, a lot of craft beer is only kind of, they tend to can them because it's an easier process for transport and delivery and things like that. It's an easier thing to do. And when your margins are low, like generally the craft beer community has, because, it's not a huge, it is a growing market, but it's not there yet. You're better off to go with cans. It's easier to do. I think with bottles, yeah, you do tend to see some of the like limited edition stouts and stuff like that. They tend to be bottled rather than canned. And, I think just there's probably something about them that they just look better after a while. Like can designs are class, but if you have something that's kind of fancy, you want it to look good, you're going to stick it in a bottle. It might look that bit better, especially if it's something like a stout that you can age for a while. You're not going to have a stout there sitting in the corner like some of the cans that we see where it's just, God knows, a mouse in a fucking mousetrap with an electric pole shoved up its arse or something. I don't know. It's not going to look as well as it looks in a can as it does in a bottle.
I would think that it depends what you're drinking. So a bottle of wine is going to look fancier than a can of wine.
No.
Depends on where you're from.
You mean a box of wine?
No, either or. Either or. Beer is the one thing. Okay, well, like a bottle of whiskey is going to look fancier than a can of whiskey. I'm just trying to put like something that you wouldn't put in a can, like in that situation. Do you know what I mean?
So like, shit on it,
beer, I think it.
well, how about this? The glass bottles of Coke look a lot fancier than a can of Coke, or even a plastic bottle.
They taste different as well.
They taste better as well.
So I did a student placement in Coke, and they contend that the reason the glass tastes different is the glass bottle of Coke is the actual flavour of Coke. That glass is chemically neutral, and so it doesn't leach into the flavour, whereas cans and plastic bottles do leach slightly, and that's why they taste slightly different, because you're getting a little bit of the can or a little bit of the bottle by the time you drink it. So the glass bottle you would get in, say, a pub, because you kind of only really see them in pubs these days, maybe in special offers in supermarkets. They're like what Coke is supposed to taste like, supposedly.
So would you think that cans might slightly alter the taste of beer then?
It's possible, yeah. That especially if a beer's been maybe canned and then a month before it's on a shelf and then a month before you buy it and then you don't drink it for a couple of weeks, like 3-4 months before you're consuming it. Like, that's a long time. Any little bit of dirt that's on the inside of the can, or even just the metal itself, will slowly leach in,
As we know, and not to throw a bit of something on myself, but I have recently got a new job, and I've always wondered why a lot more places go cans than bottles. I always assumed bottling beer would have been easier, because it's a lot more accessible if you're doing home brewing and stuff like that. But I also have a newfound hatred for bottles. Because as Natalie pointed out, bottles do not travel well. And they're just awkward and an absolute pain in the hole with packaging. So I have an absolute hatred for anybody that orders bottles of beer, because it's just awkward sometimes.
So if you were in my house, Walshy, and I said, you know what, my mate Walshy's over, I want to, put on a bit of a show for him and be a bit fancy, I'll get him the nice bottle of piss beer that I'm going to give him instead of the can of piss beer. Would you take that bottle and smash it on the ground and say that bottle didn't travel too well there, did it?
Well, no, you see, if it didn't travel too well, it wouldn't have made it to your house. That's what we're getting at. But now in saying that, I'd also, if I'm drinking in someone's house, I'd get a crate of beer and it'd be like 20 bottles. And sometimes it's just easier to drink bottles of beer because there's less in it, and you can do it at a vaster quantity.
Yeah.
Cans can be a struggle because there's a lot more in them. But as just travel wise and stuff like that, they're just like, there's a strong percentage you're getting that package back and there's broken glass, and that's just why breweries don't do it as much as cans, because if you're shipping them off in a lot of these places where we even buy beers, cans are a lot more common than bottles because there's a decent chance the percentage of a broken bottle is a lot higher than a burst can. Actually, there's a question. You talk about Guinness, and I've always said it's like I can't imagine Guinness in a can being remotely close to draft Guinness. But in relevance to a bottle of Guinness, where would you put that between the three? Is it nicer than a can? Is it worse than a can?
No, bottle is the worst.
I would have to
Oh, really?
agree with Kinger. Yeah, the bottle is probably the least
Yeah.
nice for me, anyway.
Would that be?
But it's not.
Would that be down to the fact that I can't remember the name of it. The ball,
No.
The widget, yeah.
the widget.
The
Thank you.
widget. I don't know.
Is that in the
I've
bottle?
No idea.
Saying that, my mother and all my aunties do a lot of baking around Christmas, and they won't put a can of Guinness in the pudding. They'll only put a bottle. It's, the bottle is
I've
better
yeah.
quality, apparently. I don't know. That's like an old wives' tale. I guess.
I've actually noticed that over the years that people are like, oh, I'm making a porter or cake or something, but it's always a bottle of Guinness rather than a can, which is quite interesting.
What I am really enjoying is how long this conversation's going on and how much of a pain it's going to be for Kinger to edit. And you can see him shaking his head like, what the fuck, lads? We said we'd keep it short.
This is me just like wrapping it up.
Just left.
I had to turn on my light. It's getting dark.
It actually gives us a nice segue into our next beer because it is a bottled stout. It's Sullivan's Black Marble Stout. So, crack it open. Now that whole conversation, actually, I'm not a fan of stouts, and I'm not a fan of stouts from a bottle.
Oh, so this is right up your alley.
This goes.
One thing.
No.
Yeah.
One
thing historically, Kinger, you've mentioned that you don't like about craft stouts is that they're all mad flavors and stuff, and they're all they push the boat.
But this one
is
isn't, which
stout,
already.
Yeah. Now it does say, if you read the label, enjoy the taste of a traditional bottled Irish stout with roast barley, chocolate and wheat malts and choicest hops. So I guess they're kind of calling out just a little chocolatey flavour there, but they're not gone for anything extreme.
But that chocolate malt and roast malt, they're things that tend to be in a lot of Irish stouts anyway. I wouldn't even. That's just the name on the malt. It's not overly. It might be a little bit sweet or something, but it's not going to be going for that full on chocolate flavour, I'd say. Now the look of it is it's pretty dark as stouts tend to be. It's not like some of them that are just very, very, very dark brown. It's a proper black stout.
Oh no, that is like
not a little, not even a little. It's like, proper tar looking. The head's pretty good. The head's it's with some stouts you get that with some stouts you get that kind of off white color where it's kind of gone a bit browny yellow. This one isn't. It tends to it's more white than some of them that tend to go that little bit kind of yellow. It's kind of stayed, well for me anyway, it stayed that more white. And it smells like a freaking stout.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, we're all in video chat and I can see Nally and Walshy's pints. And my pint, the head was very little and almost immediately has just disappeared completely.
Yeah.
So I don't know, have I gotten maybe a little bit of a flat bottle or something?
I think Kinger's is the same.
Mine's the same. Yeah,
maybe it's just
mine's the same, yeah.
Glass choice, I suppose.
So getting back to Sullivan's medium head.
You won't be able to say head without laughing anymore.
This like I always do it, and I know it's at my own peril, but I always compare a stout to a Guinness, and a Guinness I know is a creamier. It's a creamier drink. This is more on the. It's more carbonated for a start. Although when you taste it, it's not as busy on the tongue as I thought it was going to be. It's a lot more pleasant than I was expecting.
Oh, that's a good thing. That at least you find it more pleasant. Yeah, so I do think that those chocolate and coffee notes aren't, they're kind of a normal thing that you get in stouts, but they're not as pronounced in this as maybe in some other stouts. That carbonation that's in there really helps it. It's one that kind of, if you sip on for a while, it might get that flavour to stick a bit more. But luckily enough, the carbonation clears it, and it's one that's pretty solid. So it is. Yeah,
it has. In terms of the aftertaste, like it's like a little bit of a waxy coating on your mouth. I feel like it kind of it's kind of hard to describe. So like this might be the stupidest question ever, and I might have asked it before actually. What's the big difference between a porter and a stout?
They're the same, pretty much. These days, maybe back originally there was some stylistic differences or ABU differences, but these days they're interchangeable.
Because I feel like if craft breweries that make stouts, I feel like if they leaned into the porter name, I think it might do them. I think it might help them. I think trying to take on the world of stout, I think, is a tall order.
So this week's Mark throwing shade at a large multinational corporation. It's going to be aimed at Heineken. You Dutch pricks, okay? How dare you brew a stout in Cork? Okay, Island's Edge, guys. I don't know if you've seen this, right? They're releasing a Heineken stout, Island's Edge. And you know what? Fair enough. You want to do a stout, that's fine. But I don't know if you've read their press release. I urge you to Google it, because in it they say that the stout market in Ireland is stagnating and there's no options for stout drinkers apart from a main three stouts. Them kind of hinting at, Murphy's, Beamish and Guinness. And reading that as a craft beer fan, and the literal 50 stouts I have of all crazy flavours and different styles in my press, I'm like, screw you, Heineken. Stop trying to get the masses of the people. They've just come in and they're like, oh, we're going to do Island's Edge. It's like Guinness with like Hop House and Rockshore. Well, Hop House especially. It was their way of kind of saying, oh, there's this craft beer scene and people maybe aren't sure how to get into it. Oh, but Guinness are doing Hop House. That's like a craft beer. I'll have that. And they're trying to take away from the craft beer market kind of. And I don't like that. And it was just a very, if you read the press release, It was a very, not derogatory, but it was a very condescending press release for all the amazing breweries out there who are doing their best to produce stouts and brew for the sake of brewing. And I just wanted to take a second and just thank those breweries for all
here.
notable exceptions or exceptional beers like Astral Grains from Lineman that we had here recently. Even the bad stuff, even Siren Broken Dream, right? It broke my dreams, but you know what? At least they had a go.
Next week on Mark Rants, in general, I feel like if craft breweries leaned into the porter name, like the shtick of a porter over a stout, I think it might help them more.
I'd like to throw this open to Walshy, because as a purveyor of fine craft stouts and somebody who self-confessedly hasn't really drank Guinness in his life, you're more familiar with the unusual flavoured stouts, and so a plainer stout or more traditional like this is probably less traditional to you. So what do you kind of think of this?
I poured this and I expected it. I was looking at the bottle and everything. I was like, this is going to be super heavy. It's going to be like coffee, which is something I hate. And when I first smelled it, I was like, oh no. But once I got it into the glass and got a proper smell of it, and once the kind of head dissipated a bit where I could actually drink it, this is gorgeous. I genuinely there's a nice coffee to it. It's nice and it's a hell of a lot lighter. Maybe I had it built up to an expectation that I was expecting this to be dreadful, and then it was like it's so light, I'm finding, and it's so easy to throw back, and it has that nice. And I find that there's not a lot of coffee to it. Maybe I'm getting the chocolate a bit more, which personally suits me better, because as we all know, coffee is just something that I'm not a fan of. And other stouts we've had that's very coffee, I'm having none of. But I think this is absolutely beautiful. Like I said, it's light. There's a nice chocolate feel. Who doesn't like chocolate? So I mean, it's win-win for me. It is
a deceiving beer, because to look at it and to smell it, you think this is going to stick me to the chair. Like, this is going to be, as Walshy was saying, it's going to be super heavy. It's really not. Like this, I think this is a very good. We like to get a gateway mention into some craft beers. This is a good gateway into a craft stout, right?
I slightly disagree with it, the gateway thing, right? Because I don't think that this, like a gateway, you want it to be a bit of a step for somebody away from the usual whatever they're drinking, that opens them up to kind of new aspects of the craft beer market, but still has enough of what they like that they're not going to be, afraid of it or go away from it. I think this is just too similar. I think this is too in the wheelhouse of something like a Guinness or a Beamish or an O'Hara's. Like, I don't think this would really help anyone step into the craft beer stout market, because I think it's too down the road. Like, you know, I would prefer to give them something like Astral Grains that is, you know, now it's an Imperial, so it's strong, but, you know, something like that would step them a bit further. I think this is too close.
I don't know, Mark. I think maybe the fact that this is so carbonated, and those traditional stout drinkers will be used to something that's so kind of creamy and, you know, not carbonated at all, like the Guinness, the Beamish type of thing, that this might actually be a proper stepping stone into it, just because it's something that, you know, for those guys, something so carbonated would be so, you know, weird, that this would actually be a pretty decent stepping stone into it.
Okay, well, look, let's move on to the ratings, though, for Sullivan's Black Marble Stout. Mark, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I want to go first, because I have a feeling I'm going to be the most negative on this, and I don't want there to be any questions of me tanking this beer if things go really well for it near the end. But for me, this is just beer. Okay, it's a solid stout. It's reasonably pleasant to drink. For me, there's not enough flavour there. It's even towards the end of the drink, the carbonation is such that it's clearing your palate well, and the flavour doesn't kind of build at all, which is good that it's a consistent beer, and believe me, that's nice. But I think it's just missing a bit of flavour for that consistency to really be a huge benefit. And because of that, it's just a just beer for me.
Yeah, man, so I'll jump in behind you there, Mark. And it's a just beer for me as well. I don't think it's a bad beer at all. I'm pretty happy with it. I think the carbonation is nice. I don't think, you know, those kind of subtle flavours are nice to me. I don't think they're over the top. I think they're a good way to get into it. You know, if someone hands me this, I'd be happy out. I'd be happy out to try and sit there and drink these all night. You know, if you have this on draft, I can't see a problem with it. But it doesn't stand out enough to get higher than that. You know, it's solid. There's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, I just don't think it stands out enough to be higher than that. I do like it though. And yeah, just beers, I think, is a fair place for it to land, in my opinion.
I was expecting to give this a booze before I tasted anything at all. So, just because it's a bottled stout.
Is there positivity?
I know. Just because it's a bottled stout. So, like, it's, as I said earlier, it's deceptively light. It's deceptively, it's just beer. Like, I wanted to give it more, but as Nally was saying there, that he'd sit and drink it for the night. I don't think I'd drink this for the night. I'd have one or two, kind of leave it at that. But like, I'd say just beer. It's kind of middle of the road. It doesn't do anything wrong. Inoffensive is my go-to word normally for that kind of a beer. So yeah, just beer.
I am a step up. I think it's beautiful. Like going in, kind of like what Kinger said, going into it, he was expecting something quite different, and I really was. It's like super heavy, super coffee. I was like, I seen the black, and I was like, oh, this is going to be like eating a 3-course meal type of a thing, and it's the polar opposite. It's a nice light, and as we know, I like them kind of salted
ridiculous
caramel,
stouts,
coconut, you know, Mexican hot chocolates, these kind of mad stouts. So them kind of traditional stouts I wasn't too gone on. But I think this, like, I mean, I wouldn't compare this to Astral Grains by any means. That's a different animal altogether. You know what I mean? That's why it did as well as it did. But I still think it's beautiful. I drink a few of them. Like, I mean, if I was a regular stout drinker, which we all know I'm not, but if it was thrown in front of me, it was like, oh look, we have a keg of this out the back, will you have a few of them? It's like, yeah, absolutely, 100%, without question. So for me, and I find it very easy drink, that 5.1, it's not stupid heavy, but you'll know about it after a while. So, you know, a beautiful beer for me.
Kinger has to do a little outro and tell us the overall result for Sullivan's Black Marble Stout.
Okay, here's my best Kilkenny accent, right? JJ Delaney, Brian Hogan, Jackie
What's going on?
Jackie
TJ Reid.
TJ Reid, TJ Reid, Brian Cody, DJ Carey, Henry Shefflin. That's all they ever say down there. So that's my best Kilkenny accent.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds offensive to everyone not from Kilkenny, but everyone in Kilkenny is probably picking up their hurl and going, "Arr!"
That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. I cannot do a Kilkenny accent, like.
So everybody, that's our episode for Kilkenny and Leashes on the Crafty Crew podcast on episode 6 in season 2. Kinger's here to train me on the outros because he feels like he needs a little bit of backup. And Nally and Walshy have gone outside to have a small fist fight over what Eamon Dunphy's greatest punditry performance was. Nally still believes it was the time he called Ronaldo a cod, and Paul Walsh agrees that every Eamon Dunphy performance is perfect, and so no one can be better than the other. So from the Crafty Crew podcast, it's a goodbye from Walshy, from Kinger, from Nally, from myself, Mark. Goodbye. How's that, Kinger? Did I do okay?
I mean, that's pretty. You can do the outros from now on.
Well, I've no time to be fist fighting Dumpy, so or about Dumpy.
And just, I have to say, I think his best punditry performance was when he didn't know they were on air and he swore. That was the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life.
For me, it was the Cameroon flag coloured tie.